Hey everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to part 19 of my Umineko Let's Play. In the last episode, we got the confirmation that Jessica was killed. Kanon's body was quote-unquote missing, which led to Rosa suspecting the servants and, putting that divide between the Ushiramiyas and the servants, with Badler trying to convince himself that the witch doesn't exist, but it also can't be anybody he knows. So I definitely see this chapter becoming a lot more antagonistic between the servants quicker than the first chapter, whereas Natsui managed to kind of keep her cool head a little bit and try not to suspect anybody in the group until like later on. But Rosa's really upping the stakes here, so it'll be interesting to see how things go with this divide between the servants and the family. So let's get back into it. Let's see what happens next. With Jessica's death, it became certain that the culprit was hiding somewhere nearby, and that they would come after our lives if they had a chance. With Jessica's death, it became certain that the culprit was hiding somewhere nearby, and they would come after our lives if they had a chance. According to Genji-san, when tomorrow morning comes, the boat should arrive. The boat has a radio, too. We'll probably be able to contact the police immediately with that. We all gathered in the parlor and decided to wait quietly until tomorrow. I proposed we should search throughout the mansion for clues about the culprit, but Auntie Rosa rejected that, saying if we put pressure on the culprit or provoked them, it might lead to a third murder. That was probably the right thing to do. Even if a bunch of amateurs like us investigated, there's no way we'd find anything. It would be wisest to focus on protecting ourselves without doing anything unnecessary, and leave it to the police after tomorrow. What if literally the rest of the chapter was just 3 hours of read time of them just talking in the parlor, and then the police show up and everything ends relatively normally, but we know something's going to happen, obviously. Something's going to separate them and cause more death. We had been tense in the beginning, but other than Auntie Rosa, most of us had spent all morning watching TV and getting bored, so our sense of danger had grown much less intense. When we thought about it, even though there certainly had been 6 adults killed at once in the first murder, that made us imagine that some backhanded method like poison had been used. And in the second murder, it was thought that those two had become sacrifices because they were unfortunately isolated from the rest of us. From this, we imagined there weren't a great number of culprits, and they didn't have the ability to kill this large group gathered in the parlor all at once. Right now, in this parlor, there was George, Aniki, and me, Maria, Auntie Rosa, Genji-san, Goda-san, Shannon-san, Kumasawa-san, and finally Dr. Nanjo. A total of 9 people were here. Then there's like the unknown Kinzo up in his room. Nobody's checked on him in a while. Wonder if he's already dead. Maybe somebody's going to go and check up on Kinzo, and then with the separation, that's when the death is going to start happening again. Furthermore, Auntie Rosa was even armed with a gun. Surely, with this many people staying in this room, they wouldn't be able to touch us easily. That feeling of security, along with the passage of time, allowed us to recover from the shock of that morning bit by bit. Incidentally, lunchtime had just ended for us. However, it had been a canned food lunch, far cry from last night's dinner, which Goda-san had skillfully made for. I can imagine Goda crying in the corner at the idea of having to feed them canned food. Auntie Rosa had suspected that poison had been used in the murder of those 6 people, so we probably couldn't deny the possibility that the culprit had snuck into the kitchen during all the confusion in the morning and mixed poison in with the ingredients. Auntie Rosa had ordered all of us not to put anything in our mouths except safe foods like canned food until the police came. Pretty smart, actually. Now that she's calmed down and she's not waving her gun around, she's quite rational, and she's thinking well. Until Maria's gonna antagonize her again by saying something creepy. As a cook, Koda-san must have felt very let down. As though he wanted to display his skill anyway, he said he at least wanted to bring the plates and pile them up with canned food. At first, Auntie Rosa had been reluctant, examining each one of the plates that were brought. She hadn't been able to find anything to complain about. And Goda-san's chef's pick canned food combo lunch had become a reality. Koda-san had said something about taste being savored not just with the tongue, but with the eyes, too. I found myself agreeing. It had been the same canned food we ate for breakfast, but it felt like something completely different.
だから見て見て、これが狼と羊のパズル。
And here's that thing that Rosa's talked about, the wolf and sheep puzzle. As I was sitting lazily on a sofa with no desire to watch TV, Maria came over, pulled a picture book out of her handbag, and held it out to me as she said that.
なんだよ、その本は。狼と羊のパズル？どれどれ？
Wolves and sheep puzzle. It was a phrase that Auntie Rosa had said this morning when we had gone to call on Jessica. At the time, I hadn't known what it meant, and then after that, there was the uproar when Jessica's body was found, so I'd forgotten about it completely. The book that Maria held out to me looked like a foreign picture book or something that had been translated. Opening it, I could tell the book contained an assortment of puzzles.
何匹かの狼と羊をね、一台のボートを使って対岸まで連れてくパズルなの。
ああ？そんなルールのゲームを聞いたことあるな。これはそれの狼と羊バージョンなのか。
Oh yeah, I think I've done one of these puzzles. I think that was in a Professor Layton game. I think there was one of those puzzles. It was a very simple puzzle, passed on from long ago. Let's try one of the problems. On the right bank, there are 2 wolves and 2 sheep. There's a boat that as many as 2 animals can ride on, and using it, you have to move all 4 of them to the opposite left bank, but you can't leave a wolf alone with a sheep. There are 2 rules. The first is regarding the boat. It can be paddled by wolves or sheep, and even just by one animal on its own, but it can only hold up to 2. The second is regarding the wolves. When they are greater in number than the sheep in that location, they attack the sheep, and it's game over. For example, at the start of the game, both sheep ride the boat and go to the other side. Then one sheep gets off, and the other goes back to the first bank. When it does, there are 2 wolves on the first bank, and a single sheep returns there. When that happens, there are more wolves, so the sheep is attacked and it's game over. On either bank, or even the boat, there must not be more wolves than sheep. It's a puzzle about how to shuttle them across the boat under these conditions. By the way, the right answer is, on the first turn, move both wolves to the opposite bank. Then 1 wolf comes back. On the second turn, move 2 sheep to the opposite bank. Then 1 wolf comes back. Then, on the third turn, put that last wolf that was on the right bank on the boat and cross to the opposite bank. And congratulations, transport successful. Partway, there may be the same problem, or there may be the same number of wolves and sheep in the boat, or on either side, but that isn't a problem. You only lose when the number of wolves is greater. This book symbolizes it using wolves and sheep, but there are probably lots of people who know the same game with a different symbolism. It looked like Maria wanted to test whether I too could solve the puzzles she knew how to solve, and she kept showing me different pages, saying, "Solve this one, and this one's hard." What had been happening when Auntie Rosa had said the name of this puzzle? That's right. When we decided to go call Jessica, we had been talking about how many men should go, and Auntie Rosa mentioned the wolves and sheep puzzle, and said we should all go together.
Oi, oi.
That could only mean one thing. Auntie Rosa was saying there are wolves among us. And when the number of wolves and sheep is balanced, we're safe. But when a situation comes up when that isn't the case, the wolves will bare their fangs. Is that what she's thinking? At the time we had found our parents' corpses, Auntie Rosa was already suspecting the servants might be wolves. While she didn't know whether it was all of them or just some, she had sniffed out the possibility that wolves were hiding among them. Well, yeah, that murder scene was pretty damn elaborate. It's easy to imagine that there were multiple culprits. And considering she had that idea already in mind when we went to Jessica's room, where Jessica had been alone with a servant, Kanon, and had been killed, it isn't hard to imagine why Auntie Rosa had suspected the servant so persistently.
使用人の皆さん、合田さんが食器を洗いに厨房に戻ります。念のためです。皆さんも同行してください。
皆さん、申し訳ありません。団体行動で参りましょう。
シャノン、熊沢、行くぞ。
はいはい、ただいま。
Now Rose is probably going to be like, alright, we need to have a conversation with those guys out of there. We can't trust them.
それではジョージさん、一度失礼いたします。
うん。気をつけて。
あ、ローザおばさん、僕も一緒に行っていいかな。
Oh, poor George. He's like, they just got engaged and he can't even spend some alone time with Shannon anymore.
ごめんなさい。ジョージ君は残ってくれるかしら。ちょっとお話ししたいことがあるの。
Maybe she's saying to George, like, don't trust Shannon. Like, I know you're in a relationship with her, but you can't trust her.
そうですか。シャノン、ごめん。とにかく気をつけて、一人にならないでね。
はい。
南條先生、ちょっとご相談が。
はい、何ですかな。
Nanjo's like a weird kind of like wild card. He's not one of the servants, but he's not one of the family. The servants put the dishes and empty cans on the serving cart and started to head out to the corridor. Behind them, Auntie Rosa was talking to Dr. Nanjo about something in a small voice.
わかりました。参りましょう。
ええ。よろしくお願いしますね。
Dr. Nanjo closed the book he had been reading, stood from the sofa, and followed after the servants. Auntie Rosa stuck her head out into the hallway, and after watching them leave completely, she closed the door and spoke.
みんな聞いて。これで今ここにいるのは後ろ宮の人間だけね。
ん？確かにそうなりますね。
狼を全部追い出したってことっすか、ローザおばさん。
Oh, she's like, hey, what happened to us, like, having a truce and being friendly? With that one sentence, Auntie Rosa's gaze grew sharp. They're gonna be button heads. Apparently, she had picked up on my sardonic tone. Auntie Rosa laughed lightly.
バトラ君は頭の回転が早いのね。賢い子は好きよ。話が早いわ。
She's like, why can't my daughter be clever? Maria's very clever. You just don't see it.
バトラー、頭いい？これ解ける？64ページの難しいの。
マリアは少しの間テレビを見ていなさい。ママはバトラ君たちとお話があるの。
ローザおばさん、パズルの話はバトラ君に聞いたよ。用心深いのは悪いことじゃないと思うけど、さすがに疑り深すぎるのもどうかと思うよ。
真の犯人がベアトリーチェかどうかは別にして、少なくとも使用人たちがその一味であることを疑うことはできると思うの。兄さんたちが殺されていた最初の殺人、とても残酷な仕打ちがされていたわよね。あれが一人でできる真似に見える。
謎の来客ベアトリーチェ様が夜鍋をしてチクチクやったのかもしれねえぜ。
ジェシカちゃんの部屋の扉をめぐるマスターキーの件は使用人の誰かが関わっている証拠じゃない。
Only a master key could have locked the door to Jessica's room. In that case, we could only suppose that one of the servants locked it. No, wait.
チェス盤をひっくり返すぜ。おかしいよ、ローザおばさん。
He's gonna say the thing I said about how, isn't it weird that they would intentionally make it seem like something only the servants could do?
なんで犯人はジェシカを殺した後、わざわざ施錠したんだ？
I'm starting to think like him. I'm starting to learn to flip the chessboard too.
施錠すればマスターキーの持ち主が疑われるのは必然。わざわざ施錠する必要がないぜ。
そうだよ。バトラ君の言う通りだ。わざわざ疑われるようなことをする理由がない。
それは面白い考えよね。もちろん私もそれは考えた。だとしたら施錠した人物は使用人を疑わせたくてマスターキーなしであの扉を閉めた。でもそれは不可能でしょ？
That's right. If there was a trick that could lock the door without a master key, this would be a good disguise aimed at casting doubt on the servants. If the culprit wanted to isolate us and attack us one by one, this trick was a very effective one that could even give rise to paranoia. However, there was no way to lock that door without using a master key.
マスターキーを使わずに閉める方法がないなんてどうして言い切れるの？ルドルフ兄さんの言っていた悪魔の証明になるんじゃない？私たちには想像もつかない方法で閉められたのかもしれない。私たちに思いつかないからといって 未知のトリックがあることを否定することにはならない。
そりゃそうだけどよ。つまりあれか、疑わしきは黒ってわけなのか。
具体的なトリックはわからないけれど、それでも外角はわかるの。申し訳ないけど、カノン君を犯人だと仮定すると非常に簡単に説明できる。死体がない理由までね。
だってカノン君はマスターキーを持ってなかったんですよ。
Oh, are they saying maybe Kanon was in cahoots with the servants and maybe Kanon, he left and is hiding somewhere, and one of the other servants locked up behind him.
他の使用人ならともかくカノン君にだけは施錠はできなかったはず。
なるほど。それでローザおばさんはジェシカ
Yes.
の部屋に入って早々に、
I think that's what she's
俺
leading
たち
to.
ローザおばさんこそ普段の様子から想像できるより頭の回転が速いな。
妹の頭の回転速度は常に姉マイナス1よ。今は誰にも気を使う必要がないからせいせいするわ。
George Aniki realized he was referring to Auntie Ava and seemed a little disturbed at how she made that nasty remark.
ごめん。僕にも分かるように説明してほしいな。カノン君のマスターキーはジェシカちゃんのポケットに入って密室に閉じ込められていた。施錠した後に部屋の外からポケットに入れるなんて芸当は不可能なはず。
違うんだよ兄貴。ローザおばさんの想像しているやり方ならこのトリックはカノン君にしか使えない。そしてジェシカのポケットにマスターキーを入れたまま
Oh,
鍵なしで施錠することができる。
okay. Maybe I was off then.
そしてその結果として死体もなくなることになる。
どうやって鍵なしでどうやって施錠するんだい？
簡単よ。ジョージ君だって帰宅したら施錠するでしょ。つまみをひねってカチリとね。
まさか。いやでもカノン君の姿はどこにも。
兄貴にもピンときたみてえだな。ローザおばさんが室内を探したのはそういうことだ。内側から鍵を閉めジェシカのポケットに鍵を突っ込んだカノン君がどこかに隠れて俺た
Okay.
ちをやり過ごそうとしているのを探したんだ。
So I was sort of right, but not really, because I was thinking like maybe he had already left the room and had a servant lock up behind him. But we didn't find him, so... The simplest locked room trick. In other words, to hide it inside the locked room after committing the murder. And if he could get out after those who discovered the body left, it would create a perfect locked room murder.
私たちはあの部屋を探したけれど何も見つけられなかった。でもだからといってあの部屋に使用人たちしか知らない秘密の隠し通路のようなものがないとは言えない。それがどこに隠されていたかはわからないけれど、その隠し通路を仮定し推理することで彼しかありえないと断言できるのよ。
その推理はよ、俺も一番最初に考えた一番嫌な推理だから、一番最初にその可能性を潰したかった。
カノンはこの部屋で殺された。そなたはカノンが犯人であると疑いそうになったため、真っ先にその可能性を潰すために。これ、わかっておるわかっておる。
だからその次に考えたのはこうだった。あの部屋にいたのは実は3人だったという説だ。ジェシカとカノン君は被害者、そして犯人である来客ベアトリーチェも一緒にいたという考えだ。
そなたは人間であるわらわが魔法を使わずに犯行を行ったことにしたいのだったな。なるほど。そなたにぴったりの陳説であるぞ。
お前は2人を殺し内側から施錠した。そしてカノン君の死体を担いで普通の人は気づかない秘密の方法、つまり隠し扉を使って部屋から脱出したんだと読んだ。しかし お前に赤で言われちまった。あの部屋に隠し扉の類はないってな。
うん。お前たちの知らない秘密の通路は存在せぬぞ。ノックスだったかバンダインだったか。何でもミステリーには秘密の通路があってはいけないらしい。そのお作法にわらわも従ったということよ。つまり名探偵は部屋を調べ尽くさずして隠し通路がないと断言できるわけだ。人間の推理ごっことはなんとお気楽なものよの。
くそ、でけえこと言いやがるぜ。ありがとよ。魔女様のお取り計らいのおかげで俺も部屋を探し尽くさずにあの部屋に隠し扉がないと断言できるぜ。
うん。この部屋に隠し扉はない。扉と窓以外に出入りする方法はない。
ってことはよ、今ローザおばさんがぶってる自信満々の仮説は間違ってるってわけだ。しかも悔しいことにこの仮説は反証不能だ。魔女のお前は赤で隠し扉はないと断言すればそれで決着する。しかし人間の俺はローザおばさんにそれを反論しても受け入れられないだろう。隠し扉がないことを人間は証明できない。悪魔の証明になっちまう。くっそ、魔女ってのは便利だな。
そんなあるかないかもわからない隠し扉を理由にカノン君を犯人呼ばわりするなんて僕は納得できないな。
納得できないならより納得できる推理を聞かせて。ないのよ。私はずっと考えてる。これしかないのよ。ジョージ君はシャノンちゃんと仲が良かったわね。だから使用人全員が犯人であることは受け入れがたいと思うの。私もシャノンちゃんが犯人の一味であるなんて信じたくない。でも全員であるか否かはともかく確実にあの中に犯人もしくは共犯がいるのよ。それだけは見誤っちゃダメ。
カノン君以外にも狼がいると見てたんだ。ジェシカの部屋で犯人はカノン君だと大騒ぎしたのは使用人たちの反応を見るためだったっていうのか。
ええ、そうよ。そしてその結果私は一層の疑いを持つに至ったわ。
Yeah, especially Kumasawa. Her reaction was very sus, even if I have a feeling she didn't have anything to do with it.
確実に使用人の中に狼がいる。確実にね。そして狼と羊のパズルのように普段はおとなしくしているけれどチャンスがあったら襲ってくるに違いないの。ジェシカちゃんは一人で船に乗った羊よ。あのパズルでは頭数の時は襲ってこないけど私たちのパズルは違う。チャンスと人数次第なら頭数でも襲ってくる。ジェシカちゃんが殺されたように。
僕は怒りたいことがある。じゃあ厨房へ行かされてるシャノンは危険な状態じゃないか。今すぐ僕たちも厨房へ行くべきだ。
Whereas I bet Rosa's like, oh well, if the wolves take each other out, then that's better for us.
誰が狼だろうと狼でなかろうと僕たち全員が揃っていれば均衡するならそれを保ち続けるべきだと思う。
シャノンちゃんはお父様のところへ源氏さんと一緒に行った。その時に孤立したはずなのに殺されなかった。源氏さんも狼ではないから。違うわ。二人とも狼だったからよ。
Oh wow, she's just put it right out there.
シャノンは悪事の片棒を担ぐような人じゃない。
We're already getting discourse within the family itself. This is happening so early. This is not good.
いくらローザおばさんでもそれは聞き流せません。
At least with the first chapter, like they didn't start to do infighting really until they were all locked in Kinzo's room and Natsue called out the servants. Now it's happening relatively early on.
今の発言に対し僕は取り消しを要求します。
兄貴の前で悪いが、その論法エヴァおばさんの雰囲気にそっくりだな。こっちが反論できなきゃ自動的に自分が正しいみたいな。やっぱり血は争えないな、おばさん。
私だって今の自分はあまり褒められたものじゃないとは思ってる。でもね、私は母なの。マリアの無事を守るためなら鬼にもなるわ。本当ならマリアと二人きりでどこかに閉じこもっていたいくらいよ。
Oh boy, I feel like that would be the worst thing for Maria. I feel like Rosa would be the most dangerous person to be in a room with Maria.
でも私は同時にあなたたちの母でもあるつもりなの。
And it's all about the mother. So I wonder if the next chapter, if it's going to be Ava, is going to be the mother figure who has to protect everybody. And I could see that going really badly because Ava is the most antagonistic of them all. Antagonistic, I should say.
今やあなたたちは私の子供も同然。私は自分の子じゃないからといってあなたたちを見捨てたりしない。絶対。
そりゃどうも。
I'll see how long that lasts for.
私はあなたたちの母として油断しないでと警告したかっただけなの。
Maybe she'll eventually think that they could be a danger to Maria, and she'll turn on Badler and George. George especially because he seems to be siding with the servants.
常に私の目の届くところにいて私があなたたちを守ってあげる。
ついでに俺たちが狼でないことも監視してくれるってわけだ。そりゃありがたいぜ。そういうおばさんは自分が狼ではないって証明はできるのかよ。
ええ、できるわ。
即答っすね。どうやって？
これよ、これが証拠よ。
Oh, Auntie Rosa held up the gun and pointed the barrel at me. Okay, but that was only for an instant. She immediately lowered the gun, laughing impishly. But to me, the time I spent staring down the barrel of the gun had felt like an eternity.
その銃がどうローザおばさんが犯人でないことを証明するというんですか？
考えてもみて、私が犯人だったらどう？使用人たちが出ていったこの千載一遇の機会を逃すと思う？あなたたちをズドンと撃って、あとは適当な言い訳をするだけよ。窓の外にベアトリーチェが現れて銃を撃ってきたとかね。私は2発を撃ち返したと称して2発分の空薬莢を床に捨てればいい。
そりゃすげえ乱暴な理論だが確かに一理あるぜ。
That's also Balor being like, oh god, please don't go crazy and actually shoot us, Rosa.
クラウス兄さんが昔よく言ってたわ。力こそ正義ってね。これがまさにそうなのかしら。ごめんなさいね、二人とも。私も今朝からの事件続きでかなり冷静さを失ってる。普段の私を知る二人から見れば今の私は余裕がなくて少し短気そうに見えるかもしれない。でも分かってる。私は悪意ある犯人からあなたたちを守りたい。そのためには鬼になる。
Keeps going on about a demon. First she's saying a witch is overtaking her and that's why she hits Maria, and now she's saying she will become a demon.
それだけのことなの。
Did Natsui say something similar, or am I mistaken about that?
怒らせるようなことを言ってごめんなさいね。バトラ君、ジョージ君、仲直りしましょう。
George Aniki was wearing an unsatisfied expression. He probably couldn't forgive the damage done to Shannon's honor. What about me? Several bits of circumstantial evidence hint strongly at the servants' participation. I don't want to believe that one of them is the culprit, or possibly colluding with the culprit. But in the current situation, that's nothing but wishful thinking. Who should I believe? In the first place, who is the culprit? Are there accomplices? If so, how many? I feel like I'm constantly only suspecting the people connected to all this. I find myself quickly forgetting about that 19th person, the guest, Beatrice, who came yesterday and boldly called herself the Golden Witch. I haven't actually seen her face. I've heard she's like a double of the witch in that portrait. But because I haven't seen her directly, no matter how hard I try, I can't really feel like there are 19... I can't really feel like there are 19 people on this island. So I easily slip into the illusion that the culprit is one of the 18. Damn it. Come out, Beatrice. If you're the bad guy, then act like the bad guy, and show yourself laughing in a high-pitched voice and looking down on us. Well, she does do that, just not in this physical plane, apparently. Just like a bad guy in one of those dramas who, even once they're exposed to the culprit, aggressively says, "Is there any proof?" There's the high-pitched laugh.
証拠は終わりかの
うっせえ。てめえはしばらく黙ったろ。
There were 5 humans in the kitchen, but it was very quiet, filled only with the sound of the rain. It was only accented by the sound of Shannon and Kumasawa washing the dishes. Goda was using the leftovers from breakfast and lunch as ingredients for a servant's soup. Rosa had suspected that poison might have been added to the food, so they had decided to eat canned food, but it hadn't really been filling. But Goda thought she was being too careful, so he spontaneously created a soup to be served only to those that wanted to eat it. Shannon and Kumasawa were washing the dishes that the food had been arranged on. On the inside, they thought maybe Goda should be the one to wash them, since he had been the one who wanted the food on plates in the first place. Of course, Goda would never lower himself down to washing dishes. He makes the food, he doesn't clean up after. But they left their complaints unsaid for the time being. Genji and Nanjo were facing each other across a crude chess set which had seen many years. It had still only just begun. And because the opening game of the experienced players had been endlessly refined, it looked like a ritual where they just moved specified pieces in a specified order.
良い匂いですね。やはり缶詰ではこうはいきませんね。
開封した食材だけで作りましたので、毒が混入しているなんてことはありませんよ。皆さんの分もお作りしていますので、ぜひ食べましょう。もちろん、私もお毒味しますよ。安心して召し上がってください。
本当にいい匂いですね。ゴーダさんのまかない料理は本当に美味しいです。
美味しい材料を買ってきて、美味しい料理が作れるのは当たり前です。私は師匠に、あり合わせのもので美味しく作るまかない料理を極めてこそ、真の料理人だと習いました。
それはいい師匠でしたな。おかげで私はとても美味しいスープをごちそうになれそうです。親族の皆様にお召し上がりいただくための材料で作ることになってしまう。
Oh my god, Genji, you're such a killjoy. What a stick in the mud.
ローザさんも朝からのいろいろでお疲れなのでしょう。無理もないことです。
でもそのおかげで美味しい食材のスープが飲めるのですからね。
Rosa had fervently told everyone they didn't realize the danger they were in, and they must suspect that poison was mixed in with the food. The atmosphere in that place had led to their agreement, but their hunger wouldn't be overcome by that momentary emotion.
皮肉にも、普段の私たちではとても味わえないスープとなりました。できるなら、客間の皆さんにもぜひ振る舞いたいところなのですが。
ローザ様のご指示に背いている以上、よした方がいいだろう。飲みたいものだけ飲むといい。
ほほほほほ。見えないところで上手に息抜きするのも使用人の心得でございますものね。
Kumasawa laughed loudly, and Shannon and Goda laughed with her. It seemed that in an area where only their fellow servants were gathered, they could be very relaxed. Shannon didn't like Goda's occasional dishonesty, but she knew that there was no falsehood in his childish smile while he cooked, nor in his desire that people enjoy his food. So even though it was a little aggravating to be made to wash the dishes, she couldn't really hate him. However, they couldn't have dreamed that Rosa was calling them wolves in the parlor at exactly the same moment they were spending their time peacefully like this. Ooh, that was sudden. At that time, several of the servants heard a sound like something was being dragged, and then a thump. When a servant was out carrying a mountain of trash bags on a rainy day, or doing some work in a raincoat, they would create exactly this kind of noise and presence as they returned and hovered around the back door. So after hearing that sound, at first, none of them noticed anything out of the ordinary. But they quickly realized, ooh, in a situation where everyone was either in the kitchen or the parlor, who in the world was at the back door? As the servants all looked at each other, they checked to make sure each one of them knew what that sound meant. The servants knew the mansion's layout well, so they understood how unimaginable it would be for someone from the parlor to actually go outside in this typhoon, go all the way around, and come up to this back door. Then was it Kinzo? They found it even more difficult to imagine that Kinzo, who never left his study even under normal conditions, would dash out into the middle of this typhoon for no apparent reason and come to the back of the house where only low-class people came in or out.
気のせいじゃないですよね。
Shannon and Kumasawa drew closer together, fearfully looking at the back door. Okay, let me look and see the epitaph. I think the next one, it's only at the end where a bunch of people die, right? Like, I doubt that all of these servants are going to be cut down right now. That's at the end. We still need to have the heart and the head, I believe. Okay, gouge the head and kill, gouge the chest and kill, gouge the stomach and knee. And yes, I have to realize that I know I was wrong about the Twilight thing. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to happen. Like, a Twilight doesn't literally mean it has to happen on a physical Twilight. So who's to say that the... Yeah, let's see here. So we've got Nanjo, Shannon, Genji, Goda, and Kumasawa. So we got 5 people. So... I doubt it, but could we do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I don't think so, because that would be it right there, right? Like, that would be everybody dead that we need in order to do the revival. So I don't think that's going to happen right now. As Goda fearfully approached the back door, he called out, and he checked with his eyes the location of a butcher's knife set on a nearby sink. He didn't pick it up yet, because there was still a possibility that this was a member of the family. However, that possibility wasn't possible. Maybe what happens is a bunch of the servants are going to run out, someone's going to offer to go check it out, and they're going to die. I don't think it would be Goda. Goda doesn't seem to be the self-sacrificing type. There was no response from across the door to Goda's initial question. Maybe his voice had been so quiet that it hadn't reached through all the wind and rain outside.
Genji-san.
Of course he's going to have Genji do it, not himself. Genji took a knife with a classical design from a stationery box placed near the chest set. It was something to be used instead of a paper knife to open envelopes for invoices and bills, but it was fundamentally a knife. So the blade could injure someone. Genji hid it in his sleeve with a well-practiced manner. Then he too approached the back door and signaled to Goda with a silent nod. Maybe Genji secretly, like, he's got some backstory where he's like a skilled fighter, and maybe that's why Goda's having Genji do it, because he seems to be pretty well skilled with a knife based on, you know, how they're describing it. Goda cautiously approached the back door and slowly started to open it. Alright, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Is Goda gonna die? Is Genji gonna die? Oh! The figure of a person suddenly shifted into sight, landed on its knees, and fell over. Oh, this is probably Kinzo's body. Who else could it be? It couldn't be anyone else. Goda fell backwards onto his backside in shock. Oh no. Oh no, and then the family's gonna run in and see Kinzo dead with the servants all around him, and they're gonna be even more suspicious. If this is Beatrice, she's playing into this perfectly. She's gonna make the servants even more suspect. That figure was soaked with rain, smeared with mud, and drenched with blood. Kanon! Whoa! Whoa, okay, didn't see that coming. I thought it was going to be Kinzo 100%. Okay, so it looks like Beatrice, if she can make bodies disappear, she can make them reappear. Okay.
カノン、大丈夫か？南條先生。
It was Kanon. His breath was feeble, and the puddles of mud he left quickly became drenched bright red. When Nanjo held him and turned him face up, there was a deep, gruesome scar right in the center of his chest, as though he had been run through with a spear or something. Even now, deep red blood poured out from there. Well, there's the gouge the stomach can kill, right?
これはひどいですよ。どうしましょう。救急箱ですか？救急箱ですか？
カノンさん、傷口に手を当ててしっかり押さえてください。使用人室のベッドに運びましょう。皆さん、手を貸してください。
さあカノンさん、しばらく我慢してください。
しっかりして。もう大丈夫よ。だから傷口から手を離さないで。
So he was revived and, like, still alive. He'll probably die. But he's still been, like, alive a little bit longer.
とにかく使用人室へ運ぼう。熊沢ローザ様にカノンが見つかったことの報告を。
Okay.
待って、ローザ様にはダメ。
Uh-oh. Not
待
Rosa.
ってください。
Not Rosa. Is that implying that Rosa... I doubt Rosa killed Kanon, and she would just be like, oh, I need to finish the job. But how crazy would that be if Rosa was actually one of the wolves?
カノンさんがローザ様には。
どういう意味なの、カノン君。
I'm so confused right now.
今はいい。早く使用人室へ運ぼう。熊沢、ローザ様にはまだお伝えするな。カノンに事情を聞いてからにする。
After appearing in this horrible state, he had said not to tell Rosa. That could only mean something very disquieting. An eerie sense of panic rose to their faces.
さあ皆さん、
They're probably thinking that Rosa had something to do with this.
急いで運びましょう。早く。
I'm so confused. So his body went missing, and then it reappeared, and he's not actually dead. And this is the same thing that happened in the first episode, right? Like, he was carried to this room, and then he ended up dying of a stomach wound. Kanon's wound was unbelievably deep, and judging from Nanjo's pale face, it was almost a miracle he was still conscious.
これはひどい。何か槍のようなもので刺されたようです。肺まで届いてなければなんとか持つかも。とにかく止血を。
Uh-oh. Yeah, he gon' die. No matter how much Nanjo tried to wipe off that gushing deep red blood, he couldn't wipe it. He couldn't wipe it all away. And each time the wound was aggravated, causing Kanon to cry in anguish.
カノン君、しっかりして。しっかりして。
南條先生、火炎のタオルです。なんてむごい。
容体はどうですか？
It's almost creepy how calm Genji is during all this.
本音を言うと生きているのが信じられん深手だ。刺されどころが幸運だったのかもしれん。だが出血がひどすぎる。輸血が必要だが明日まで無理だ。
Come on, Kanon, are you gonna say what you meant about Rosa? Like, I need to know what's going on, why you wouldn't want Rosa to know about this. Yes, here we go. Oh, come on.
喋らないで。
No,
カノン君。
talk, Kanon. Please, I know you're probably gonna die, so just tell us everything you can.
傷口が開いちゃう。
ローザ様が
Okay.
やってきて。お
Oh,
嬢様とは
what? What? What?
なんですって。
Wait a minute, what's going on here? We saw the thing with Okay, I'm so confused. We saw the whole thing with Beatrice. Is Kanon been like revived with false memories? Did the thing with Beatrice actually happen? Oh my god, I don't...
ローザ様がですか？おお、そんなことって、そんなことって。
So now the servants are going to suspect Rosa, and Rosa suspects the servants. And then the kids will be caught in the middle not knowing who to suspect.
間違いないのか？
はい、間違いなくローザ様でした。
さあ、もう喋らないで。熊沢さん、もう一つの救急箱を取ってください。
源氏さん、ローザ様がなんてことはあり得るのでしょうか？
わからん。
Disregarding Nanjo and Kumasawa, who were struggling hard and stained with blood as they tried to stop the bleeding, Genji and Goda faced each other. Because if what Kanon had said was the truth, Rosa was the culprit who killed Jessica.
おものれ、ローザめ、よくもお嬢様を。
I'm so confused.
してやる。
We better be having like a moment right now where Battler and Beatrice show up. Battler's gonna be like, wait a minute, we saw what happened. We saw that you were the one, or that goat thing was the thing that killed Kanon. Actually, we didn't actually see... I don't know. Kanon screamed even more hatefully. His hate-filled voice made it seem like he had seen Jessica being harmed right before his eyes.
確かにローザ様がお嬢様を殺す理由はあるかもしれない。後ろ宮家が全滅すれば遺産は全てローザ様のもの。
And now that whole thing about Rosa saying, like, you know, I'll protect the family. You know, I don't think it was Rosa. I don't. I'm
だ
so...
としたらバトラー様やジョージ様も危険なのでは。ローザ様は銃を持っている上に今客間には彼らしかいない。源氏さん、これはかなりまずいことでは。
So then the servants are going to come in and be like, Kanon told us that you're the one who did it. And then she's going to be like, of course Kanon would say that because he's the one who actually killed Jessica and he's just trying to blame it on me to cause discourse. Oh my gosh, it's so confusing. Oh, Shannon might kill Rosa. Ooh, I wouldn't be surprised if Shannon... Because, like, Kanon's like her little brother. Shannon suddenly ran out into the corridor. Her expression was complex and tragic, as though she didn't know what to believe. And if Kanon has magical powers, then we have to assume Shannon might too, and she might use those on Rosa. I don't know if she'd be allowed to show those in front of humans, though. Maybe there's a thing where they're not allowed to show people those powers. Shannon ran. To where? The inside of the mansion had been scrupulously cleaned, so they probably wouldn't be easy to find. She might find some if she searched the rose garden, but they would probably have all been lost in this wind and rain. Is she looking for a weapon? That's right, the boiler room isn't cleaned very often. If she went there, she might be able to find some. Shannon ran down the stairs to search for those in the underground boiler room. Okay, I'm trying to think what was in the boiler room that Shannon might be looking for. There were tools there, I know there were tools. Had some medicine taken effect at the brink of death, or had Kanon finally stopped even feeling pain? For the time being, Kanon had at least gotten over his painful gasping. Nanjo apparently didn't think of this as so great of a trend, and didn't let his eyes off Kanon for a second. Kumasawa finally gripped Kanon's hand, and kept encouraging him so that his will to stay alive didn't fall asleep. Genji and Goda seemed bewildered at how to deal with the truth that Kanon had risked his life to deliver.
ローザ様の銃は確か4発か5発の弾が込められたはずだ。
決して少ない数ではないですね。でもあの銃は弾の装填に結構な慣れが必要だったはず。一発目は撃たせてしまうかもしれませんが、みんなで襲いかかれば次を撃たせずに銃を奪い取れるかも。
この島には医者はいても薬はなく、病院もない。撃たれどころが悪ければ死ぬぞ。
それは分かっていますが。
Well, look at Goda. Hero was underestimating his, you know, I thought he was a little bit of a coward, but he's willing to step in and try and, do what he can to stop Rosa.
それより早く行動を起こさないとまた次の事件が起こる可能性は
I mean, it's also because he knows that she's probably going to be after them. She's got to shut everybody up, right? Take out the rest of the family, take out the servants.
私たちはローザ様にうまく追い出された気がします。今頃ジョージ様やバトラ様が殺されている可能性も
Alright, Goda, you get a point from me. Alright, look at you trying to redeem yourself.
そんな危険な相手なら無理に刺激しない方がいいんじゃありませんか。
しかし明日までは長い。どんな手を打ってくるか想像もつきませんよ。源氏さん、こちらから仕掛けるべきです。せめて銃さえ理由をこじつけて奪えばなんとかなるかも。
弾は4、5発じゃありませんか。ということは私たち全員を殺すには足りないということです。うかつに刺激しなければきっとローザ様もむやみには。
あいつは言ったよ。
What?
僕たちを皆殺しにすると言った。
Kanon, who they thought had been sleeping quietly, suddenly started talking brightly, almost like he had been awake the whole time and had suddenly opened his mouth. If I have to assume Beatrice is real, this magic is real, I feel like she brought him back and she implanted this idea in his head that Rosa had been the one to kill Jessica. I can't believe... I'm not the biggest fan of Rosa, but I don't want to believe that she was the one behind it. He looked firm and steady, and Nanja was slightly relieved, but thinking of the deepness of that wound, he just couldn't wipe away a certain creepy feeling. He knew because he was a doctor. Kanon should have been expected to fall unconscious after losing so much blood, and yet somehow he had preserved his awareness so clearly. Youth? Or tenacity? Sometimes the power of human life did surpass common knowledge. When they had stopped the bleeding to make sure there were no foreign objects inside the affected area, Nanjo had groped around a bit inside the bleeding hole with tweezers, and the great depth of the wound had surprised him. The wound had certainly reached as far as his lungs, and yet somehow he's still alive. Through magic, perhaps? So that Kanon could get this declaration out. And yet... No, on the other hand, the fact he's alive is fortunate. But Kanon had spoken clearly. He had hatefully said the one named Rosa had created this wound, and was repeating curses and enraged words. Oh. What's with those eyes, though? Is that Kanon being taken over by Beatrice? Maybe she's possessed him, so she's saying those things through his body? But why would Rosa say that to him? Unless, she's planning on killing him. But yeah, why would Rosa say such a thing?
くそ、なんて人だ。源氏さん、どうしましょう。私たちにも何か武器がいるのでは。
にわかには信じられん。ローザ様がそのようなことを。
源氏様、信じる信じないじゃない。あいつが僕に、この僕が聞いたんです。どうして信じてくれないんですか。
起きないで。
Oh, so creepy. Kanon sat up on the bed and spoke to Genji, who was making no effort to believe Kanon's story. We got another doubter, just like Badler.
あいつは僕たちを必ず全員殺す。もうきっと客間の方々も殺されているに違いありません。僕らが先に殺さなければ必ず僕らが先に殺される。僕が先に殺されたようにみんなも先に殺される。殺さなきゃ殺される。
Wait, the fact he's saying I was killed, but he's not dead yet. It's like she's using a corpse, and that's so creepy. She probably has revived his corpse and is speaking through him.
Kanon-san, あんた本当に痛くないのか。
ああ、これですか。大した傷じゃありません。
大した傷じゃないどころか、あんたは。
本当に大したことありません。 こんなのもう全然痛くないし。
That's so creepy. No, he's like a
本当に大した傷じ
zombie.
ゃない。
As Kanon said that, he began to untie his own bandages, which had been painstakingly wrapped. Oh god, oh god. The gruesome hole in his chest was immediately exposed.
カノンさん、そんなことをしてはダメですよ。早く横になって。
大丈夫ですって。ほら、ね。
Now you don't poke. You're gonna poke in your stomach, aren't you?
大した傷じゃないでしょ。
Don't do it. Kanon showed off his gaping wound, which is still slowly spitting out foamy blood. Everyone averted their eyes reflexively.
ほら、全然大した傷じゃないですって。
やめなさい。傷をいじってはいけません。
ほら、見て。全然深い傷じゃない。
Please stop. Please stop.
ほら。ほら。
Please stop. No. Kanon held up 2 fingers, showed them to everyone, and slowly started to stick them in the gruesome wound right in the center of his chest. Plunging, slimy, squishy, wet. The fingers went in deep to the base. Squitch, gloop, blorp. Yeah.
カノンさん、やめて、やめて。
Having stuck his fingers completely into his chest, up to their base, he slowly pulled them out in exactly the same way. The fingers he pulled out were stained a sticky, solid, deep red color, and there was even a thread hanging. The fingers were all the way to their base covered in deep red. You know it's bad when the doctor's freaking out.
ね、全然大した傷じゃないでしょ。
Just then, the door opened vigorously, and Shannon— oh yeah, I forgot she left. What was she coming for? Even after she saw Kanon stained with fresh blood, her impregnable expression didn't falter.
やあ、姉さん、どこへ行っていたの？
Maybe it's just Kanon and Shannon who have the powers, so they know something's up between them.
僕が既得だというのに、一体どこへ？
Maybe she knew that— maybe she knows he's been possessed. Maybe she went to go get some holy water or something? I don't know.
ボイラー室に行ってきたの。探し物があって、それより確かめたいの。あなたは本当に
Yes.
カノン君。
Shannon saw right through it. It was only natural. Everyone believed he was Kanon, so they couldn't understand the meaning of Shannon's question. When they looked, they noticed Shannon was holding a handkerchief in her hand. It was filthy and looked like she had wiped up some trash or dust. And while holding that, she approached Kanon and drew close to his legs.
なんだい？
雲の巣を拭き取ったハンカチよ。
なんでそんなものを？
カノン君なら平気だろうけど、もしあなたにとって
Oh.
雲が天敵だったなら嫌うかなって思って。
What is this?
やだな。
Is it— are spiders maybe the natural enemies of butterflies?
僕がどうして雲を嫌うの？
ごめん、試すね。
Because butterflies get ensnared in Shannon's— in spiders' traps? Whoa, okay, here we go. What's going on here? When Shannon brought that handkerchief close to Kanon's thigh, something happened in an instant. It happened all at once. The human eye couldn't have followed it. Kanon jumped back like a wild goat, fleeing from the thing Shannon was holding, and his arm drew trails with some kind of afterglow that flashed purple. They were 3 beautiful purple trails drawn in an arc, and they were traced across the throats, of Nanjo and Kumasawa, who had been tending to him. Oh shit, was the thing that took over Kanon about to kill all the servants right there? Ooh, and Nanjo— Oh, he did it. Oh, wow. And Nanjo and Kumasawa's throats had opened like gaping maws, and it was the very instant before the blood was about to start spewing out. Ooh, the 3rd purple trail should have traced across Shannon's throat. But Shannon wasn't there. Oh, Shannon! Because Genji, who had been behind her, had wrapped his own arm around Shannon's neck and pulled her back. Okay, so Genji knows about this. I'm assuming he knows about their powers. This all happened in an instant. Damn. In the instant, Goda tried to think fast in an attempt to understand the scene. The frozen moment in time shattered. Oh shit. Red dread. Oh, blood spewed forcefully from Nanjo and Kumasawa's neck, which had been torn open. Shit! I was hoping maybe Shannon had gotten to him quick enough to stop him before he was about to kill them, but nope. I guess, yeah, time froze, right? And then... Still mid-jump, Kanon wall-kicked off a picture frame that had been hanging from the wall behind him, springing forward just like a cat, and aiming for Shannon's throat again. But Kanon's target once again disappeared from in front of him, because Genji had pulled Shannon again, and the two of them had fallen onto the floor, keeping flat to the floor. Ooh, I wonder if Genji has some powers, too. I need to see Shannon. Come on, Shannon. You gotta bring those powers out, my girl. I know it's tough, you gotta fight Kanon, but that's not Kanon.
いい反射神経だ。この老いぼれ覚が。
ゴダ。
Goda wasn't an idiot either. Even if he couldn't fully understand what was going on, he at least realized that if this Kanon wasn't seized, his own life would have been in peril. Oh man, that's so sad we lost Nanjo and Kumasawa. And Nanjo's the doctor too, man. So I was gonna say maybe Nanjo can save them, but Nanjo was the one who got slashed. He sprung at Kanon with his huge body, pushing him up against the wall with his weight and physical strength. I can't believe Goda's the one that's coming to the rescue. I gotta give him some credit. He's coming through on this one. The tips of the fingers on Kanon's right hand began to trace out another purple trail. Oh. And when he raised that blade hand up, aiming to strike at Goda's back, there was a loud thunk, because Kanon's raised blade hand had been pinned to the wall. He couldn't tear his palm away from the wall. Sticking out from it was the knife Genji had thrown. Oh shit! Wow, there's a lot going on right now to take in. Under normal circumstances, it should have been surprising to see someone as old as Genji handle a knife so skillfully. I knew it. I knew Genji based on his interaction in the kitchen. He knows his way around knives. These servants all have something to them. I wonder if Kumasawa has some, like, secret powers I don't know about or some magic skills other than being able to find places to nap. Okay. This abnormal space, no one paid it much mind. Genji took the handkerchief with a spider web stuck to it from Shannon, and he approached Kanon, who was pinned to the wall by Goda's massive body and the knife. Damn. Okay, but what about Nanjo and Kumasawa? Can they be saved? I mean, it was their throats. If they got their throats slashed, it's unlikely. When Genji pushed the handkerchief up against Kanon's face, there was a sound just like the one you hear when you see meat on a red-hot iron plate. Of course, the smell was the same too. Ooh, and as he was burned and inflamed, festering in filthy red and black, and cried out his death throes, Kanon's body burst open and scattered. It was almost as though a balloon filled with gold leaf had popped. The entire servant room was completely buried under a storm of gold leaf. No, a rabble of gold butterflies. Wow, this episode is so much more supernatural and fantastical. The first episode, there were the golden butterflies, but it was all like very subtle. This one is just right in your face with all this stuff. Those butterflies began to softly fade into nothingness, as though dissolving into water. No, into the air itself. And people commented about how, like, episode 3 was even crazier, and I'm like, how? I know it will be, but I can't imagine how. And afterwards, all that was left were the three of them sitting on their behinds, stained with blood. However, not everyone was just stained with blood. Some of them were lying on the ground, vomiting blood themselves.
Kumasawa, Nanjo sensei.
A slit so sharp it looked like it could cut your finger if you touched it was opened wide, causing large amounts of blood to keep pouring out. So Goda's unaware of this. He is new to this. He's like, what job did I take on with all of this craziness? He just started here.
ゴーダ、怪我はないか？
私は大丈夫です。しかし私たちは何を見たんだ。
They were like, you weren't supposed to see that.
何があったんです。私はあれを確かにこの手でこの壁に押し付けていたのに、その私が何があったのか理解できない。
Goda looked at his own hand. The bright red blood left from his scuffle with Kanon definitely remained, and yet Kanon was nowhere to be seen, because he had disappeared. He had turned into gold butterflies and scattered. Goda kept screaming alone that he had no clue about what was going on. Oh, alright, so... well, confirmed deaths right there. Damn, that sucks. But that goes against the epitaph, right? Of gouge the head and kill, gouge the stomach and kill. So we don't even have those deaths yet. There we go. We got Kanon, confirmed death. There is no corpse, but he is dead. The witch declared it in red. So even without a corpse, his death is incontrovertible. Kuwasawa died in the servant room, her throat slit by a sharp blade or something similar. Finishing touches yet to come. Nanjo died in the servant room, his throat slit by a sharp blade or something similar, but this alone isn't enough. Okay, so maybe that thing about, like, but this isn't enough, being like, this doesn't play into the epitaph, so their deaths don't even count. Shannon sobbed in front of Nanjo and Kumasawa's remains, and Genji watched over her, silent as always. Damn, that was insane.
Nanjo 先生と熊沢さんが一体どういうことなの？
ああ、シャノン、無事でよかった。君に何かあったら僕は。
庄司様。
ジョージ君、少し静かにして。あなたたちの目の前で殺人が行われたんでしょ。犯人を見たの？見ないの？
それがなんと説明すればいいのか。
Oh yeah, like this is like Rosa, she sort of believes in the witch, but how is, yeah, she's not gonna believe what they say.
源氏さん、
私たちにも見たものをうまく説明できません。
確かにそれは私たちの目の前で起こりました。私の目の前にいた。だけれどあれは何だったんだ。私にもわからないんです。
何を言ってるの？あなたが出会ったのは昨夜から所在不明の魔女ベアトリーチェか、行方不明になっているカノン君かのどちらかしかありえない。男か女か、それだけでも答えられるでしょう。
ローザおばさん、少し落ち着けって。目の前で二人やられりゃ誰だって混乱だってする。ゴダさん、源氏さん、焦らなくていいぜ。何があったのか順を追って話してくれ。
それが何を私は言えばいいのか。
Dr. Nanjo and Kumasawa had been killed. We understood that much, and it seemed that it had occurred in front of their eyes. But even so, they spoke awkwardly. They admitted they had definitely seen the crime with their own two eyes, but when asked to explain what they had seen, their mouths went suddenly shut. I could understand why Auntie Rosa was irritated and losing her patience.
シャノン、君は見たのかい？南條先生が襲われるところ。
はい。
僕に教えて。分かることだけでもいい。一体何があったの？
勝手口に来たんです。
そうです。勝手口に誰かがやってきたんです。そして誰だろうと私は扉を開けました。
勝手口に誰か？それは誰？
最後まで言わせてやれ。それから
そいつは血まみれで大怪我をしていました。私たちは使用人室に運び、すぐに南條先生が手当てをしました。とても深い傷でした。
だからそれは誰のことなの？
わからないんです。確かに 最初はそうだと思っていました。いや、今でもそうだと思ってるんです。でもあれは一体わからないわからない。
In a manner that didn't match his large body, Goda held his head and scratched at it. I didn't have a clue whether he was confused because he couldn't remember, or whether he was confused because he had seen something terrifying and couldn't accept it. And Shannon looked the same way. If she let her guard down, what she had seen just a short while ago would quickly melt away like a daydream, and she wouldn't even be able to remember what she saw. That's what she looked like. Only Genji looked composed as usual, of course, so the questions were naturally directed at Genji. But even Genji had to take quite some time to gather his thoughts before he opened his mouth.
Genji-san, あなたは見たんでしょ？勝手口に来たのは誰？
はじめ、私たちはその人物がカノンであると信じました。
ほら、やっぱり生きていたでしょ？私の推理は正しかった。
はじめはってことは、後にその認識は変わるってこと？
はい。その後に起こったことは口では説明できません。南條先生と熊沢を殺し、そして姿を消しました。その時、彼は間違いなくカノンではありません。
Oh man, that's just gonna make Rosa just lose her mind. She's like, you're not making any sense.
そうなんです。源氏さんの言う通りなんですよ。口ではとても説明できない。
君も同じ意見なのかい？
はい、私も同じことしか申し上げられません。
We interpreted what they were saying favorably. It meant that Auntie Rosa's conclusion had been correct from the beginning. Kanon-kun had appeared from the back door in the kitchen with a serious injury. Then he had been taken to the servant room and cared for. Then something terrifying had happened. Since these people couldn't imagine that Kanon-kun could have pulled that off, they had started to suspect whether that really had been Kanon-kun. Is that how things are? In other words, this meant Kanon-kun had appeared. No matter how confused they were, no matter how they'd muddled their words, that's what it meant in the end. So had Kanon-kun indeed used some trick to escape that room while it was locked? No, that doesn't matter anymore. The real problem is that Dr. Nanjo and Kumasawa were killed. Auntie Rosa had claimed Kanon-kun was behind this from the very beginning. No matter how confused they became, and no matter how much they tried to deny it, they were halfway saying that it was the truth. But even so, for some reason, I felt like their awkwardness couldn't be explained by just confusion. What had they seen? Like they said, had they really seen something unexplainable with words? Auntie Rosa, having decided she wouldn't be able to get any more out of them, concluded her questioning, and said that she wanted to check the two bodies. I was also interested in that. Even if these people didn't have a clue what was going on in their confusion, if those of us who hadn't been at the scene calmly looked at the bodies, we might find something. Watch the bodies will be disappeared as well. But it was a little surprising that Auntie Rosa was also concerned about the bodies, just like I was. Even at this point, I still wanted to expose the culprit and the truth myself if we could find any clues. But Auntie Rosa should have been different. Hadn't Auntie Rosa's plan given a higher priority to staying safe than finding the culprit? Ooh, interesting. I really couldn't see why Auntie Rosa wanted to check the bodies so badly that she would deliberately leave our fort in the parlor.
みんなで一緒に使用人室に行きます。全員一緒に行動すれば安全よ。マリア、落書き遊びはおしまいになさい。
We haven't had any weird Maria for a while. She's probably about to say what's just happened.
おお、落書きじゃない。ベアトリーチェの問題を解いてるの。おお。
ベアトリーチェの問題？何のことだよ。俺にも教えてくれよ。
ローザおばさん、マリアちゃんも連れて行くんですか？
It seemed that George and Nikki had some resistance to bringing Maria to the bloody crime scene. But taking into consideration the fact that Maria would be left alone here, it would surely be much safer if we took Maria with us. In the end, it was just Aniki's irresponsible humanism. we decided that all of us, including Maria, would go to the servant room. The bed in the servant room was stained with bright red blood. No, not just the bed. The whole room was covered with a gruesome paint from countless bloodstains. That dreadful scene alone was enough to give us the idea of the repulsive sight that it had been trying to describe.
おお、マリアも見る。
マリアちゃんは僕と一緒にここで待ってようね。
George Aniki was standing by the entrance, covering Maria's eyes with his back to the room. He probably didn't want to dirty an innocent girl's retinas with a repulsive red in this room. That was surely the correct decision. I was acting tough right now, so I didn't mind. But I would probably remember this room and start to vomit whenever I saw red paint scattered around for the rest of my life. And the thing is, like, I know it's probably just certain wording, but the fact they use, like, paint, you know, paint, it's like the whole thing about makeup. I'm probably reading too much into it, but that whole thing of, like, did this really happen? Is this all an act, you know? My retinas had already had this room burned into them. In other words, it was too late for me. Oh my god, they are gone! I was joking. I thought she would only do that, but I guess she said the whole thing about furniture, right? Furniture, I'll desecrate the body by not even leaving the body. But it seemed like she had a real hate on for Kanon more than anything, so she just wanted to, you know, give him that extra bit of disrespect by removing his body, but okay. So now we have moved bodies as well. Right after they entered the servant room, Goda-san and Shannon-chan appeared flustered. I mean, this could just be done to just make the servants look even more suspicious and just kind of make things more interesting. We shook, wondering what horrible new situation had arisen to fluster them for a second time. Auntie Rosa also shuddered, raised her gun high, and searched for whatever it was that had them shaken. But she couldn't find it, which wasn't surprising. They were shaken because they couldn't find it.
なんだどうしたってんだ一体。
二人の言いたいがありません。
どういうことなの？
そんなはずないんです。確かにお二人はここに。
おいおいおい、なんだよ。死体がどこかへ歩いてったってのか。そんなわけはないだろ。だってこの使用人室は施錠されてたんだろ。
Okay, so now we have, like, in this episode, it's like we add on to things. In the first episode, it was locked rooms, and now we have locked rooms and disappearing bodies.
それを今ゴーダさんが開けて入ったわけじゃないか。ってことはなんだ。ジェシカの部屋と同じってことかよ。
Yeah, but it's like, I am so goddamn sick of these locked rooms.
また3つの中から消えたってのかよ。そんなバカな。
私にも何のことやらさっぱり。私たちはこの部屋を出るとき確かに鍵をかけて、私こそ何が何やらもうわからないのです。
There was a timid and pitiful smile on Goda-san's face that he definitely wouldn't have let show normally. Shannon was the same.
2人の死体が消えた。しかも鍵をかけたのに消えた。仮にカノン君が犯人だとしても、カノン君はマスターキーをもう持ってないはず。
違います。カノン君は犯人じゃありません。
シャノン、僕はシャノンを信じるよ。カノン君は犯人なんかじゃない。きっとこれは彼によく似た何者かの仕業なんだ。
いいえ、カノン君はマスターキーを手に入れられたわよ。だって彼のマスターキーはジェシカちゃんの遺体のポケットから見つかった。そしてその鍵は誰が手に入れた？
そうだ、南條先生が。
That's right. Back then, it definitely had been Dr. Nanjo who searched through Jessica's clothes and found the master key. So if someone had the opportunity to search Dr. Nanjo's corpse, it would have been easy for them to take the master key back. Auntie Rosa searched under the bed and in the locker. By now, I also understood what that meant. If If you assume that there have been two culprits, it could be easily explained. The first person was Kanon-kun, or maybe an imposter that looked like him. He'd finished off Dr. Nanjo and ran off somewhere. The second person was probably the 19th person, Beatrice, whose location was unknown. She had hidden under the bed in the servant room beforehand, and with Dr. Nanjo's body still enshrined here, she had waited for Genji-san and the rest to leave. Then after that, she had crawled out, taken the master key back from Dr. Nanjo's pocket, and carried the two bodies away for some reason. If she had them lock the door with the master key, this locked room would be created.
ジェシカの部屋の推理を前提になかなか素早く組み立ててきたものよ。その方法なら魔法でなくても密室は作り出せよう。まずは及第点というところか。しかし実に面白いが、お前は一つ忘れてはならぬことがあるぞ。お前の言う方法で犯人がマスターキーを取り返したなら。
Oh, so they're probably gonna... Oh, wait, no. They can't check Nanjo's body to see if he still has the key.
その犯人はマスターキーをジェシカの遺体から南條が回収したことを知っていたことになる。
And now we place it back on the suspicions of most likely the servants. Yeah, it would have had to be the servants because everybody else was... The Ushiramiyas were all in the mansion. So it's like no matter what happens, the suspicion always goes back on the servants.
あの時、あの場にいた人物以外知り得ない情報だって言いてんだろ。この第三の密室があっさり破られちまったもんで、そういう手で俺に闇を言うしかねえんだろ。同じネタの繰り返しは芸がないぜ。
Even though I was acting tough, that move of the witches hurt bad. I could feel cracks forming in the thing I most wanted to deny. She's trying to close in on me from two directions. On the one hand, there's the frontal attack, where she tries to force me to believe in witches using locked room tricks that only a witch could do. And on the other hand, there's the rear attack, where she tries to lure me into thinking it would be better if there was a witch by strengthening my suspicions of those close to me. In the first locked room, the chapel, she had used the frontal attack, but it hadn't worked on me. That's undoubtedly why, with the second locked room, and now the third, she started to change the direction of her attack. However, the fact she was changing the direction of her attack also proved that my resistance was working a little. And she had surely given up on the frontal attack because she couldn't just win directly with it. I tried to force myself to accept my own position by thinking that, but it seemed that the witch had seen through these thoughts of mine long ago.
成功法は書かぬ。絡めては成功法と同時に進めてこそ意味がある。絡めてのみに出するは手段が目的となった時に起こる愚策に過ぎぬぞ。
そうですかい。じゃあお得意の赤で何者かが使用人室に隠れていたを復唱してもらおうじゃないか。
その必要はない。お前の推理の前提は今から崩れる。
お拒否かよ。やっぱり誰かが隠れていたんだな。
ローザが今からお前の前提を崩す。まあ耳を傾けてみよ。
信じてください、ローザ様。確かにここに2人の遺体を安置したんです。この床の真っ赤な血は彼らのものなのです。
Auntie Rosa began to search through various objects around the room, her back to Goda-san as he cried out in supplication. Another thing, too, is they keep saying bright red blood. Blood is, like, as far as I know, blood is not bright red. It's more of kind of like a darker color. So I'm like, the whole thing about paint, the fact that they say it's bright red, like, who says this bright red blood? That is just such an odd thing to say. Like, you just say the blood in this room is theirs, not the bright red blood. Because you know what else is bright red? It looks like blood, is paint. Maybe that's just me thinking about things a little bit too deeply, but who knows? Auntie Rosa began to search through various objects around the room, her back to Goda-san, as he cried out in supplication. Eventually, she found something, and for a while stopped moving. Uh-oh.
私たちは断じて嘘などついては。
I wouldn't be surprised if she blasted like Goda, Shannon, and Genji right now, because she's like, I can't trust you.
間違いなく二人の遺体はここにあったんです。
静かに。死体を隠した本人は死体はよそに持ち去ったと告白しているわ。これでね。
Rosa showed them a single sheet of paper over her shoulder.
それは一体まさか礼拝堂にあったのと同じ紋章入りの封筒の手紙？
ええ、そうよ。ここに堂々と置いてあったわ。読むわね。
後宮家の皆様、黄金の碑文の謎解きはいよいよ佳境に入りましたでしょうか。皆さんに私を止めることができる唯一の方法が碑文の謎を解くことなのです。それ以外のいかなる方法をもってしても私と儀式を止めることはできません。くれぐれも皆さんの目的をお間違いなきよう。私を探そうとも無駄、私から逃れようとも無駄、私を否定しようとも無駄なのです。黄金のベアトリーチェ。
So her thing is like, you guys are all running around trying to solve these murders where you should be trying to solve the riddle, and time is winding down right now. We've barely even scratched, like, trying to solve the riddle. It's kind of hard to, when there's bodies piling up everywhere. Of course, it's going to distort, you know, your mind, and, like, your focus is going to be elsewhere.
二人の遺体を儀式にお借りします。後ほどご返却いたしますので、
Oh,
ご
okay.
容赦をお願いいたします。あと、この鍵は皆様のものですので、ご返却いたします。
So here's the thing is, like, when she says, I borrowed the bodies for the ritual, so did she maybe stick the stakes in the head? And I'm trying to remember from the first thing if... Oh yeah, I guess it was kind of like the, like at the end with the massacre with Nanjo and everybody, where they were killed by something else and then they had the stakes placed in afterwards to make it part of the ritual. That itself could be a bluff. That could just be a diversion. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean they have to be killed by the stakes in order for it to count as a ritual. It's just the way they say, like, gouge the stomach and kill, where it's like, you know, the opposite happened. They were killed first and then had the things gouged in them. So that's, I guess that's the two. That's the gouge the stomach, gouge the head. So then the last part is going to be everybody else getting killed. As Rosa read that aloud, the contents of the envelope lay exposed on the palm of her hand. There were 2 master keys. The master key Nanjo had found in Jessica's pocket, which had originally been Kanon's, and Kumasawa's master key.
なんだとってことはどういうことだよ。ふざけんなよ、またかよ。またマスターキーを持ってる使用人しか疑えないってのかよ。
わらわは赤では言ってはおらぬぞ。彼らがこの部屋に施錠をして去った時、この部屋に何者かが隠れていた可能性を。
ベッドの下にでも隠れれば死体をどこかへ運び出すのはできないことじゃない。しかしそれじゃ施錠ができない。わざわざ手に入れたマスターキーをここへ置いてっちまってる。そうだ、忘れてた。この部屋の本来の鍵である使用人室の鍵はどうなっている？
それなら使用人室の奥のキーボックスに収められているぞ。使用人室の鍵は数本あるが、その全てがキーボックスに収められている。
ってことはジェシカの部屋の鍵の時と状況は何も変わらないってことか。使用人も便利なマスターキーがあれば不要な鍵はわざわざ持ち歩かないもんな。キーボックスにしまわれっぱなしになってるのも納得だぜ。
その他の条件も何も変わらぬ。出入りは唯一の扉と唯一の窓から以外は不可能。故に隠し扉などの不正規な出入り手段は否定される。喜べ名探偵ども。そしてそれらはいずれも施錠されていた。扉も窓も施錠時にはいかなる出入りも許さない。 つまり施錠を維持したまま扉を外す、隙間を作ってすり抜けるなどなどは通用しないということだ。
Alright. There's a lot of red there to keep track of.
当然だが、扉の解錠は使用人室の鍵とマスターキー以外は不可能。毎回これを読み上げるのも面倒だの。今度これをまとめて一言に略す言葉でも考えよう。
だがこの部屋に誰かが隠れていたことは復唱できねえだろ。しかしそれだけでは密室の扉が破れない。ああ、クソクソ、ダメだダメだ、全然ダメだ。
お得意のチェス盤をひっくり返すとやらはどうした？自慢の陳説をぜひ披露してみよ。
チェス盤をひっくり返す。俺が犯人ならどうする？死体をどこかへ運び出す。手紙を残す。内側から鍵を閉める。ここから何かの方法で部屋をってくそ。そんな方法はあるのか？扉と窓以外からは外に出られないと赤で言われちまってる。
Is it the bodies are still here somehow? At that moment, I got it. That's right. Carry the corpses, leave the letter, and not rely on a hidden door. In other words, not even able to escape. That's it. This isn't a question. It's an answer.
ベアト、復唱要求の前に。お前の
Oh,
言う隠
okay.
し扉の定義を
That was a dumb
確認
thing
し
for
た。
me to say. Like, of course, if the bodies were there, they'd find them pretty quickly.
何を思いついたやら。よかろう。
All right, let's see.
説明する。
Let's see what Badler has in mind here.
隠し扉とは知らぬ人間が認識できぬ出入り口のことであろうが、そんなこと子供でも知っておろう。
つまり部屋の外に出られなかったら、
Oh.
それは隠し扉じゃないって
Okay.
ことだよな。
So he is talking about they're just hiding. They didn't try to leave the room. They're just hiding in the room.
ほう、そうきたか。
俺は犯人は密室から抜け出したものだとばかり思っていた。違うんだ。犯人だって密室から脱出できなかったんだ。だから隠れてやり過ごそうとした。
I'd used this theory for a second locked room and reasoned that Kanon-kun might have done this. But I'd given up that reasoning when I was told Kanon-kun was killed in red. And next, I had reasoned that if there had been a third person in the room, it would have been possible for them to escape through a hidden door. And that was when, for the first time, the claim had been made in red that no hidden doors exist. And what I had learned just now, these hidden doors the witch was talking about referred to things that made it possible to get into or out of the room. In other words, things that didn't permit entry or exit to the outside, and also wouldn't be noticed by people who didn't know about them, wouldn't fall under the definition of a hidden door. In other words, if there were, for example, something like a hidden shelf or a secret closet, they wouldn't be defined as hidden doors. In other words, the third person in Jessica's room was hiding here, waiting for us to pass by. How pathetic, just a little playing around with words. With this method, it looked like even I could manage the third locked room, the servant room. If there's a hidden shelf under the bed or anything like that, that would be enough. The culprit's hiding somewhere, waiting for us to leave. Still, man, that's like they weren't gone that long and the person managed to carry two bodies and hide them somewhere and then come back and hide and wait for them to show up. That would have taken like, what, maybe 10-20 minutes? Like I'm not saying hiding the body and coming back, that would have taken way longer. I'm saying like how long was it for the servants to get to here, tell everybody about what happened, and then they came back? I would say maybe 20 minutes at the max. The culprit is also trapped in the locked room even now, which means at this very moment, the culprit is still hiding in the servant room holding their breath. And that means, what the hell? Even though we've been tortured with locked rooms 3 times, in this very moment, we've actually gotten the culprit in checkmate.
ようやく見えてきたぜ。くらえベアト。復唱要求。この部屋には俺たち以外の誰もいない。俺たちってのは、俺、ジョージの兄貴、マリア、ローザおばさん、ゲンジさん、ゴーダさん、シャノンちゃんのことだぜ。どうだ？言えねえだろ。
ほう。ほう。
痛えとこ疲れただろ。拒否なら拒否と言いやがれ。次行くぜ。気象要求。
I don't know how they're hiding in this room, but if that's a fact, then this also resolves the second locked room, Jessica's room, at the same time. I finally caught her by the tail. With this, I can explain everything. Oh, if only it were that easy. I have a feeling it's not, though. Witches don't exist. I don't have to doubt anymore. Alright, starting now, I'll flip it over. The next thing I'll request she repeat is...
この部屋にはお前たち以外は存在しない。お前たちの定義とは
Alright.
バトラー、ジョージ、マリア、ローザ、ゲンジ、ゴーダ、シャノンのことを指す。
Oh, Battler. Oh, you were so confident, and I had some faith in you too.
ジェシカの部屋に話を戻す。ジェシカの死体発見時、バトラー、ジョージ、マリア、ローザ、ゲンジ、ゴーダ、シャノン、クマサは南條のみだった。おっと、死体のジェシカももちろん含む。よって、ジェシカの部屋の件、そしてこの使用人室の件の両方について、そなたが認識していた以外の人間は存在しない。誰も隠れていない。
No humans. It was some kind of animal. An animal was behind everything.
さらに言おう。扉は鍵を使用せずに外から施錠する方法は存在しない。窓については外からはいかなる方法でも施錠する方法は存在しない。ついでに言おう。そなたは無能だ。
バカ野郎。それじゃ本当に密室じゃねえかよ。
Oh, poor Battler. You're doing good, buddy. Give me a pat on the back. You're doing well, especially for someone your age.
お前が隠れていたんなら全て説明がついたのに、トリックを打ち破れたと思ったってのに。くそ。
Oh no. Literally crying in frustration. We've all been there. It's no good, no good, no good, no goddamn good. For a second, I thought I had it. It was no goddamn good at all. Beatrice, you bitch. I thought you were all smoke and mirrors, playing word games that made clever use of red. I was certain you just cleverly deceived me. Just when I thought I'd seen a light in the darkness, it disappeared. It just disappeared, swallowed up by a blood-red sea. Red, 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 red. No one is hiding, and there's no hidden door, and no way to trick the doors or the windows while they're locked. Have you just proven it's all impossible? Has the devil's truth been pulled off with a frontal attack? Impossible. This is impossible.
どうしたのだ、後ろ宮バトラー。魔女を否定する気で満々だったじゃない。そんなところで這いつくばって悔し涙を絞り出してどうしたんだい。ああ、それはとっても素敵な方法。わらわを笑い転げさせて笑い涙の海で溺れ殺してやろうというのは確かに素敵。実はそうなんだろう。わらわを笑って笑って笑い殺してやろうって手なんだろう。後ろ宮バトラー。
何か魔法だ。魔女なんて絶対に否定してやる。お前なんて絶対に信じない。魔法の力でみんなを面白半分にいじめ殺してるなんて絶対に認めね
え。なあバトラー、いじめすぎて悪かった。わらわ側からチェス盤をひっくり返してやるぞ。お前に代わってお前側の最善手を教えてやるよ。聞きたい？
ふざけんな。聞きたくねえ、聞きたくね
え。ジェシカの部屋の件、そなたは実に良いところをついていたのだぞ。 隠れてやり過ごそうとした。これは実にいい着眼だった。
Beatrice giving us praise right now just feels... It feels so sarcastic.
だが、なぜそれをカノンと19人目のわらわにしか考えなかった？そうか。隠れてやり過ごすの。隠れてが邪魔だったから考えが至らなかったか。ほーら、もうわかるだろう。ジェシカだよ。ジェシカ！
Wait, what? What? If Jessica were the culprit, a farce like this could be easily constructed. She killed Kanon and carried him off somewhere. Then she played dead and let us walk by. That's ridiculous. Dr. Nanjo would definitely check that you've said, oh, but now it's gonna be like, well, what if Dr. Nanjo was in on things? That was one of my predictions for Chapter 1, is maybe Dr. Nanjo is like kind of that... He's the voice of authority, so we'd believe everything he says. Is Dr. Nanjo an accomplice too? That's wrong. I'd also made sure Jessica was really dead. Sure, I'd never performed an examination of a corpse before, but she was definitely dead. I think she was dead. No, she probably, surely, definitely. At least I think so, but she has to be. No. She was dead. She was dead.
ジェシカもグルなのよ。そして検証した南條もグル。ならば第三の密室など茶番だろうが。
Yeah, then it's simple. Dr. Nanjo was an accomplice. So in other words, he was on the culprit's side. So in other words, he was never killed in the first place? We thought he'd been killed and the body disappeared. But he wasn't in the servant room in the first place? I'm just waiting for Banter to be like, everybody's an accomplice except for you. Like, everybody knows what's going on except you. Then is Kumasawa Bachan, who disappeared with him, also an accomplice? That's not all. That's not all. The servants who are going along with that story. Genji-san, wow, it literally is setting it up so Balor is gonna think everybody's in on things. Genji-san and Gota-san, and even Shannon-chan are accomplices. And the one who stole the key from Mara's handbag was Jessica. Oh no, it really is. He's thinking, he's literally suspecting his whole family and the servants. Jessica, no, it was also possible it was Georgianiki. After all, if Shannon-chan was on the culprit's side, then Georgianiki would automatically be on the culprit's side as well. Wait a second. They're all wolves. Not only am I drowning in an ocean of bright red blood, there's the thing about the bright red blood again. There were packs of wolves clamoring on the banks, whose blazing eyes tell me if I crawl out, they'll eat me. Which way should I die? Will I have everything denied and drown in a ripe red sea? Will I know the truth and have my whole body chewed to bits by the wolves? It's either one hell or the other. I can't choose. She broke him. She broke his brain. Okay, now she's just making liberal use of that red text.
そして永遠の忠誠を誓ってわらわの靴を舐めるがいい。わらわを認めれば全ての謎に決着がつく。わらわの力をもってすればどのような密室も生み出せ、そして打ち破れる。バトラー。力ある者に屈服する喜びに身を委ねたくはない。そなたはわらわの一番のお気に入りの家具にしてやるよ。そなたを愛して灰になるまでわらわの玩具にしてやるよ。
これではっきりしたわ。もう疑いようもない。
は？と言いますと？
あなたたちが死んだという二人はここにいない。そしてベアトリーチェからの手紙があり、親切にも死体は持ち去ったと告白してくれている。そういうことよ。
Oh shit.
茶番は飽き飽きしたわ。
As Auntie Rosa yelled this, she looked over at everyone with a harsh expression.
茶番ってどういう意味ですか？
She's saying that all the servants are in on it with
私はジェ
Beatrice.
シカちゃんの部屋で言ったわ。信用できるのは自分自身と死体となって見つかった者以外いないってね。そして死体が見つからない以上、あの二人が殺されたことを認めるわけにはいかない。
待ってください、ローザおばさん。それはどういう意味ですか？
南條先生と熊沢さんは死んでないわ。生きている。殺されたということにしてこの屋敷のどこかに隠れているのよ。私たちを襲うためにね。
なんでそんなことがわかるんですか？ゴーダさんたちが嘘をついていると言うんですか？
ローザ様、このゴーダ、いえ、後ろ宮家使用人一同、誓ってそのようなことはいたしません。
あなたたちは南條先生たちが殺されたという。でも死体がない以上それを信じるわけにはいかないの。
This music's so hype right now.
あなたたちが口裏を合わせてそういう嘘をついている可能性があるもの。
Also, good on Goda to not just talk about himself, and he covered for like all the servants. He's like, all of us are like this.
あなたたちの無実を信じる方法はちゃんとあるわよ。南條先生と熊沢さんの遺体が見つかることよ。それが見つかったら私はあなたたちの話を聞いてみようという話にもなるわ。でも見つからない限りあなたたちは狼であることを否定できない。あんたも黄金に目がくらんであの魔女に買収されたんでしょ。そんなに金が欲しい？そうなんでしょう。一生遊んで暮らしたいの？そんな人生に何の価値があるのよ。
ローザ様、私たちは
黙りなさい。そしてシャノン、それ以上近づかないで。
Oh boy, I'm afraid George is going to do something dumb now that his fair maiden has been threatened.
10年も恩を受けながらそれをあだで返すなんて。容赦なく引き金を引くわよ。
そんなのってひどすぎます。
ローザおばさん、それは暴言だ。この部屋で殺人が起こった。そして犯人が死体を持ち去った。彼女たちはそれを正直に申告しているだけだ。
Shannon had finally broken down in tears. She had sacrificed 10 years to the Ushiromiya family. She had sacrificed 10 of the most brilliant years of her life. And she had believed she had built up a friendly relationship with Rosa as well. And this was how she was treated? You could kill a person without using a knife. It wasn't just George and Iki. Even I could recognize that Shannon-chan had been stabbed deep into her heart, as blood by the name of tears flowed out.
シャノンさん、下がって。ローザ様、確かにこのゴーダはお勤めして日も浅
Look
く
at Goda,
信
man!
用を勝ち得ていないのはわかります。
I gotta say, I mean, I didn't know too much about him from the first episode. What I knew of him wasn't great, but he's really growing on me, this one.
しかし、せめてシャノンさんだけでも信じていただくわけには参りませんか。
He's actually standing up for the other servants, whereas in the first episode, he threw them under the bus.
彼女は10年間も後ろ宮家に奉仕を捧げてまいりました。このゴーダを信じろとは申しません。せめてシャノンさんだけでも信じてやっていただくわけには参りませんか。
But I don't understand anymore. I don't understand. We can't seek an answer without suspecting them. That's it. Bit by bit, I'm starting to understand. It's because we seek an answer. That's why everything keeps getting stranger. We don't need an answer. These are all strange murders committed with bizarre magic by the 19th person, the witch Beatrice, as she follows a creepy ritual. Isn't that good enough? I don't want to suspect anyone anymore. Oh, this is Badler. He's starting to... I mean, I know he's not going to break down now. There's still so many episodes to do, but... Shannon and Goda-san were protesting their innocence, half in tears. Genji-san quietly stopped that.
よしなさい。ローザ様の言うことはもっともだ。 死体を見つけない限り南條先生と熊沢の無実は。
That's right. By Rosa-san's argument, if the corpses could be found, then the innocence of at least those people could be proved. But only the people who were corpses. Even if they searched around the mansion and found the corpses, in the end, their own innocence would not be proved. They had abducted Dr. Nanjo and Kumasawa-san, killed them in another place, and locked the room with their own master keys. Unless the locked room could be broken by a method other than that one, it would be impossible to prove their innocence. But that couldn't be done. They only have one chance to prove their innocence. That can only happen when they meet with the culprit, become corpses, and are reunited with Auntie Rosa. That's messed up. Innocent if they die, guilty as long as they live, almost like a witch's trial. Oh right, the enemy's a witch. So that makes it okay?
Rosa 様、私たちは後ろ宮家にお仕えする家具です。私どもを信用されるもされないもまた、たとえどのようなご評価をいただこうとも、最後の時までお務めを続けるのみでございます。
あなたは本当に使用人の鏡ね。お父様が心を許すのもよくわかるわ。そんなあなたまで疑わなくてはならないなんて本当に心苦しいわ。
Genji-san stuck his hand into his pocket and pulled out a master key. Then he set it on an adjacent table.
私は信頼の証としてこれを預かっていると信じています。それを失ったならこれをお返しするのは
And that's what Genji did last time with Natsui as well.
それはいい判断ね。今日何度もあなたたちが疑われてきた最大の根拠はこのマスターキー。それを手放せば疑いが晴らせるのではないかというのは初歩的ではあるけれど、まあ悪いことじゃないと思うわ。
二人とも。
Genji-san looked at Goda-san and Shannon-chan. The two of them nodded and set their own master keys onto the table. Auntie Rosa laid the two master keys that had come out of the envelope on top. With that, all 5 master keys were gathered in this place. In other words, this was proof all the servant service until today had been negated, and even the final honor that they should have been permitted had been stripped from them.
マリア、その手提げを貸しなさい。
Auntie Rosa snatched Maria's handbag, tossed all the master keys in there noisily, then lifted one out and held it up for all to see. She was announcing she had all the master keys.
これで満足かい、ローザおばさん。これでマスターキーはローザおばさんが持つものだけだ。これで満足なんだろう。
ええ、満足よ。たとえ全員が信用できなくても私は私自身だけを信用することができる。
Oh boy, she's losing it.
その私が
Oh,
銃とマスターキーを独占できた。これで私はもう誰も疑わずに済む。
Oh my gosh, I was waiting for Rosa to make the big reveal, like it was me all along.
あなたたちも嬉しいでしょ。これでもう疑われずに済む。
Oh no. Well, Rosa cracked. Rosa cracked early, as I expected she would. Whereas Natsui, until the end, she kept a relatively cool head. Then Maria, who had looked like a spectator off by herself, sneered at her mother. Auntie Rosa reacted nervously to that laugh and turned around.
鍵なんか関係ないよ。ベアトリーチェは魔法で扉を開けられる。鍵なんていらない。そんなもの誰が持っていたって持っていなくたって関係ないんだよ。
その笑い方をやめなさいっていつも言ってるでしょ。なーに、バトラ君。
I had just cut between the two of them. No, that's not it. I was on my knees and hugging Maria's head. I was crying. Oh.
もうよしてくれよ、ローザおばさん。マリアが
Oh, shit. He's accepted the witch? He's accepted the witch?
何を言っているの？
マリア、疑って悪かった。
Wow.
信じなくて悪かった。
I want to believe this is an act, but...
バトラー。
全部魔女の仕業だったんだ。魔女の仕業だったんだよ。トリックとかミスとかどうでもよかったんだ。
Or this is him breaking, being like, I don't want to distrust anybody here, so I'm going to accept it was a witch.
ただベアトリーチェっていう魔女が実在して本当に魔女だっただけなんだ。それを俺は信じなかったから、こんなにも苦しくて悲しくて。
バトラはベアトリーチェを信じてくれる？
ああ、信じる。ベアトリーチェはいるんだ。そして不思議な魔法を使う魔女なんだ。
バトラー。
Maria let go of my hand, and then she was the one holding my head.
それでいいんだよ、バトラー。ベアトリーチェはいたの。バトラがなかなかそれを信じられなかったから見えなかったの。魔女はいるの。いる。もうすぐ来る。バトラはベアトを信じてくれたからきっと黄金鏡へ招かれるよ。もうすぐ。
I wonder if Maria is being somehow... The fact that... I was gonna say that maybe Maria is being possessed by Beatrice because she calls her Beato, but if Beatrice appears to Maria, I wouldn't put it past Beatrice to be like, oh, my friends call me Beato, you can call me that too.
もうすぐだから。もう何も怖くない。怖くないよ。マリアと一緒にお手手をつないでずっと一緒にいよう。一緒に非分の謎を考えよう。ベアトの問題を考えよう。
Wait, but I thought Maria said that she doesn't want to solve the riddle because that means she doesn't get to go to the Golden Land.
ベアトは最初から言ってるよ。この問題を解いて遊ぼうとしか言ってないよ。
ああ、そうだったんだ。犯人探しなんて全くの時間の無駄だったんだ。俺たちはただ魔女を信じればよかったんだ。
After softly brushing my cheek as my tears kept dripping down, Maria kissed my forehead, soft as a feather. Aw. For just that instant, Maria's smile, which I had once thought was creepy, looked like an angel.
マスターキーはお返ししましたが、私どもの後宮家への忠誠は変わりません。客前は以後、お許しがない限り立ち入りません。どうかローザ様も客間を内側より施錠なさってください。
本当に殊勝な人ね。台風が過ぎ去ってこの島に再び海猫の鳴き声が戻ってきたなら、私たちは再び互いを信頼し合えるのかしら。
もし再びの信頼を賜えるのでしたら、これに勝る喜びはありません。
Also, we should probably check up on Kinzo. Haven't heard from him in a while.
そうね。私たちは必ず分かり合えるわ。海猫の鳴く頃に。
この部屋は警察が来るまでこのままにした方が良いでしょう。ローザ様、施錠をお願いいたします。私たちは厨房へ戻ります。何かございましたらいつでもご用命ください。
ありがとう。あなたが狼だったなら、なんてシャーシャーとのたまうのか。そしてあなたが羊だったなら、あなたを狼の檻に放り出してごめんなさい。
家具は家に運命を委ねます。命を落とすことになろうとも、それによってローザ様の信頼を再び勝ち取れるならば、それはとても光栄なことです。
できることならば、あなたたちが台風が過ぎ去るまで元気でいることを願っています。これはすべて台風が奏でる暴風と降雨の競争曲。 演奏が終われば幕が下り、私たちは再び手を取り合えるに違いない。
I was gonna say, like, Genji forgives her, but I don't know about Goda and Shannon. Shannon especially seemed really heartbroken.
海猫の泣く頃に。
Auntie Rosa nodded in response. Genji-san turned on his heels. He left the servant room. Goda-san's face was still streaked with tears, but as he had listened to Genji-san's words, maybe he had managed to sort out his heart. His face had been truly shameful, but it returned to the face of the Goda-san we knew well.
私も厨房に控えております。何かございましたらいつでもご用命ください。温かい食事をお望みでしたらいつでもこの豪だ最高のお料理を用意させていただきます。
ありがとう。あなたには明日の朝食を頼みたいわ。明日の昼前には船も来るでしょう。今までありがとう。六軒島で唯一の楽しみがあなたの食事だったわ。
かしこまりました。この豪だ最高の朝食を用意いたします。
Well, the fact that they said the boat's coming tomorrow, this is going to come to an end soon, isn't it?
どうか明日の朝を楽しみにしてください。
Look forward to tomorrow morning. Everybody will be massacred.
ありがとう。シャノンちゃんも明日の朝に美味しいコーヒーを飲みながら仲直りをしましょう。ジョージ君。
僕も
Oh.
彼らと一緒に行く。
いいんです。庄司様、どうか客間にお戻りになってください。もうマスターキーは他にありません。だからローザ様とご一緒に客間にいれば誰にも脅かされません。
そうね。そういうことになってる。客間に私と一緒にいるのが客観的に考えて一番安全だと思うわ。でも無理に一緒にいるとは言わない。
Okay. Rosa felt a little bit guilty after Genji's speech, I think. She's starting to soften up a little bit.
ジョージ君はジョージ君の安全だと思う場所にいればいい。ジョージ君ももう大人だものね。明日の朝までどこで誰と過ごそうと自由だもの。
そうさ。僕は僕の判断で誰と夜を過ごすか決める。
兄貴。
バトラ君はローザおばさんと客間にいるんだ。きっとそれが一番安全なんだ。客間の外はそれに比べたら安全ではないと思う。ならそんな場所にいる彼女を
Oh,
僕は一人にしておく。
look at him being a gentleman. He's got to protect his fiancée, right?
俺は決してシャノンちゃんや他の使用人を、いや誰かを疑ってるわけじゃないんだ。誰も疑いたくないんだ。遺産？黄金？そんなのくだらねえじゃねえかよ。そんなので殺し合いなんてあるわけねえじゃねえかよ。
うん。バトラ君の心が美しいことは僕が一番知っている。誰も君を責めない。誰も。
兄貴。
It sounds like they're saying their goodbyes. It's like they know that one of them won't survive. Most likely George.
大丈夫。バトラはマリアが守る。マリアと一緒ならベアトリーチェでも手出しできない。だってマリアはちっちゃくても魔女だもの。
うん。マリアちゃん、バトラ君をよろしく。さあ、シャノン、行こう。
はい、ローザ様。それでは失礼させていただきます。ご用命がございましたらいつでもお呼びつけください。
さっきはひどいことを言ってごめんなさいね。明日の朝まで許さなくてもいい。でも明日の朝になったらもう一度謝らせて。
はい、ありがとうございます。
George, Aniki, and Shannon left the servant room together. Now, only Maria, Auntie Rosa, and I were left in this disgusting, blood-stained room. Until Genji-san disappeared, until Goda-san disappeared, until George Aniki and Shannon disappeared, we stood there in a daze. After their presence and their footsteps had disappeared completely, Auntie Rosa giggled at them, as though she had just remembered something pleasant. Uh-oh.
何も信用できない。
So that was all an act. Oh, well, she got me. I was like, damn, she sounded so sincere.
家具どもが
Wow. That one sentence made me choke. Valor's like, can I join them too? I don't like you anymore, Rosa.
マスターキーは5つで全部。そんなの誰が信じるの。どうせ複製の鍵があるに決まってるのよ。彼らが懐から鍵を出したくらいで信用なんかできるものか。
Aww, I can't handle crying Battler. It's so sad.
その鍵を置いたってのはよ、単に鍵を手放したってだけじゃねえ。あんた、彼らの今日までの苦労を全て台無しにして怪我して踏みつけて、その挙句としてその鍵を手放させたんだぜ。その捨て台詞はなんだよ。ここまでしてみせてなおまだ信用できないってのかよ。あんまりだぜ、あんまりだぜ、そんなのって。
悪魔の証明なのよ。マスターキーは全部で5つ。そんなこと証明不能なのよ。マスターキーが5つあることはここに置けば示せる。でも5つ以上存在しないことは証明できない。そんなことは悪魔か魔女にしか証明できないのよ。
This is the episode of Battler suffering.
もうやめてくれ、もうやめて、頼むよベアトリーチェ、今すぐ現れてくれ。そしてローザおばさんに赤でマスターキーは5本しかないって言ってやってくれ。頼むよ、5章だよ。悪魔にしか証明できないんだよ。魔女のお前なら証明できるんだよ。頼むからベアト、ここに現れてローザおばさんに、マスターキーはそれで全部だから、もうみんなを疑わなくていいんだって。
マスターキーは5本しかない。マスターキーは5本しかない。これはどうしたことか。わらわがいくら口にしてもローザに届かぬ。どうやらわらわの存在を否定しているやつがまだいるから聞こえないみたいだな。後ろ宮バートラー。
認めるよ。お前はいる、確かにいる。
It's still so weird to hear him say that.
だから5章だよ。もうこんなのはやめてくれ。もうやめて、もうやめて。
言葉だけでは届かぬ。
Oh yeah, he still hasn't kissed her shoes, has he?
わらわの家具になると心から誓え。できるか。服を脱げ。裸になるんだよ。そして両手をついて地に這え。着衣は霊長にのみ認められた証だ。貴様は今から家具になるんだよ。だからその資格を失う当然のこと。そしてひざまずけよ。わらわの靴に舌を這わせろ。できるか。できるんだよな。そうしたら現れてやるよ。赤で言ってやる。マスターキーは5本しかないってローザに言ってやるよ。ああ、でも分かってる。誇り高きお前がプライドを捨てられるわけがない。それでもいいんだよ。十分なんだよ。ちょっとグラーってきただろ。靴を舐めてもいいかって一瞬思っただろ。すぐにそれを否定して自分を恥じただろう。その表情が見れるだけで最高に素敵な気分なんだよ。ざまあねえ顔だよ。鏡で見てみろよ。裸になって靴を舐めてる最低なお前が映ってるぜ。見えるかよ、後ろ宮バートラー。
God damn. All right, so that was a little bit of a longer episode. Very interesting, though. We had Kanon being possessed, his missing body coming back, and trying to put suspicion on Rosa, saying that Rosa was the one who killed. So now the servants are suspecting Rosa, and then Rosa, that thing at the end where she straight up told Badler, being like, yeah, we can't trust the servants even after seemingly forgiving them and being nice to them. So yeah, this is really interesting. Now Beatrice seems to be kind of pulling the strings a little bit more, becoming more involved, where she's trying to cast doubt on both sides. And George taking the servant side to be with Shannon. Maybe Rose is going to start suspecting George has something to do with it as well. This is really interesting. It's really antagonizing everybody, and I imagine it's going to come to a head very soon. So I am super hyped to see what's going to happen next, who's going to die next, and how much crazier Rosa is going to be. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye. Special thanks to my top tier patrons: Nana, Sparky, Matt Goldsmith, Derek Nickel, Asborn Kennedy, Icognito, and Harry Gazif.